The fallen leaves tell a story.
The creation myth of the Lands Between begins with the first form of the Erd Tree, the primordial crucible. A torrential pool where all life was one, a massive chaos where the individual does not exist. Nothing was divided, nothing distinguished. When life did begin to arise, those touched by the crucible's power were blessed with beastly features. Its signifiers of feathers, scales, and horns were once considered divine blessings in these ancient times. But it was not to last, as the rise of Marika's Golden Order, and the advancement of civilization itself, saw also a surge of prejudice towards those crucible-touched kin, for their features became disdained as impurities against the seemingly perfect human form. The winged misbegotten, the horned omen, and the prodigious crucible knights, warriors of Godfrey himself, were shunned by the new order, living their lives as slaves and outcasts. Seems like the Golden Order has the same view of chaos, and those touched by it, to that of the old Roman poet Ovid, as he tells in his seminal work, The Metamorphoses. Before the ocean and the earth appeared, before the skies had overspread them all, the face of nature in a vast expanse was naught but chaos uniformly waste. It was a rude and undeveloped mass, that nothing made except a ponderous weight, and all discordant elements confused, were there congested in a shapeless heap. Chaos is an ugly affront to the Golden Order, in form and in spirit. Those that face the worst of the Order's hatred, however, are the Omen, for it is their curse that prevents their dead souls from returning to the Erd Tree. Forever spurned, and marked by the horns that signify the Crucible, the only fates that lie ahead for the Omen are death, conscription, or imprisonment. For the Omen, should they survive the excision of their horns in infancy, they were to be utilized as fodder for the frontline forces of the Lands Between, their size and strength making them the perfect shock troopers. Despite their uses in the forces of the Erd Tree, however, the prejudice the Omen suffered reached a critical mass sometime before or during the Shattering, when the horrific tradition of omen killing became commonplace among the perfumers, started by Rollo. The perfumers, apothecaries, became twisted in their pursuit to save their omen-cursed brethren, as it became clear to them that the curse was irreversible. As they had to rid themselves of empathy and emotions before they donned the role of omen killer, they became nightmarish butchers. With the haunting visage of the Omen Smirk mask and the gruesome weapons fashioned from Omen Horrors, they are emblematic of the violent expression of hatred for the sin of being born opposite to the Holy Tree. Hawkshaw was the one who first postulated this theory in his video, which I highly recommend. It makes the existence of these killers alongside the healers, the perfumers, make a lot more sense. So really, go check out that video. It's great. For those Omen of royal lineage, however, they did not fare much better. Permanent imprisonment in the subterranean shunning grounds beneath the royal capital, left to be forgotten. Their horns remain growing to create a second skin of sorts, a body-length mark of their connection to the now despised Crucible. Whether the Order's systemic hatred towards the Crucible-touched kin was directly influenced by Marika is up to debate, considering that she and Godfrey gave birth to twin Omen demigods, and the latter shows love for at least one of them, but more on those two in a minute. It was only during the fall of the Golden Order, during the Shattering, that these ostracized peoples were free, at least from their institutional subjugation. Some rebelled against their masters, such as the case of the misbegotten uprising at Castle Morn. Some resigned to remain in their prisons, the same ones that civilization deigned them to remain for eternity. Others went on to wander the world, Godfrey's 16 Crucible Knights can be found from the depths of the Scialfa River to high above in Farum Azula. And 2 Omen in particular went on 2 divergent paths. One in the name of defending the Erd Tree in defiance of the curse he hates, and the other to join a formless mother who loves and accepts his cursed form. Before we delve into the stories of the Omen twins, it is important to first discuss the exact definitions of chaos. For us today, it is used primarily as a descriptor for disorder, but in its ancient definition, derived from Greek, it describes the formless primordial state of the universe before the creation of life. This chaos is described as water-like, as orated by one of ancient Greece's first great mythical storytellers, Hesiod. In truth, as first chaos came to be, but next wide-bosomed earth, the ever-sure foundation of all the deathless ones who hold the peaks of snowy Olympus, and dim Tartarus in the depth of the wide-pathed earth. And Eros, fairest among the deathless gods, who unnerves the limbs and overcomes the mind, and wise counsels of all gods and all men within them. From chaos came forth Erebus and Black Night, but of night were born Aether and Day, whom she conceived and born from union in love with Erebus. And earth first bore starry heaven, equal to herself, to cover her on every side, and to be an ever-sure abiding place for the blessed gods. And she brought forth long hills, graceful haunts, of the godless nymphs who dwell amongst the glens of the hills. In fact, many world cultures' mythologies share their interpretations with those of the Greeks, of life emerging from a chaotic state of unreality. From the eruption of the Pyramidian Benben from the cosmic seas of Nu, or Nun, in ancient Egyptian mythology, to the luminescent origins of the Kami from formless chaos in Japanese mythology. While some were used to speculate about the origins of existence, some, like in the case of the Japanese Kojiki, or the records of ancient matters, they were used to further political agendas and legitimize a polity's right to rule, such as the Imperial House of Japan claiming lineage to the heavenly gods. The unreality of chaos, feared as something akin to a void of soulless nothingness, became a focal point in the narrative motif of Chaoskampf, or the struggle against chaos from German, a conflict between a hero, one who would represent a culture, and a chaos monster, typically, but not always, in the form of a dragon or sea serpent. The tale of St. George and the Dragon, which we discussed in the previous episode, falls under this motif, as the dragon symbolizes not just the devil, but also the perceived chaotic nature of the pagans the Christian warriors were subjugating during the Crusades. The trope, however, goes back even farther, back to the tales of Marduk slaying Tiamat from ancient Mesopotamian mythology, which we also discussed in the previous episode, as her dismembered serpentine corpse was reshaped to form the heavens and the earth. Returning to the creation myth of ancient Egypt for a moment, alongside the Benben also arose from the Sea of Nu Amun-Ra, the fusion between the gods Amun and Ra, god of the sun, who embodies the Egyptian concept of Ma'at, which encompasses justice, harmony, and, most importantly, order. Also from Nu, the serpent Epep, also known as Apophis, rises to embody Isfet, which stands for injustice, violence, and chaos. According to the old myths, Amun-Ra would venture into the underworld, Epep's domain, every night to combat the forces of the Chaos Serpent, as Ma'at demands it to be that the servants of order continually fight against chaos, just as the Golden Order demands that those touched by the chaotic crucible be pacified. Of course, these initial conceptualizations of existence were made in the infancy of physical science, when the storyteller and the natural philosopher constructed the universe without the knowledge to understand or even comprehend how it is all supposed to work. Or at least how we best think it is supposed to work, anyways. Before we knew of the Big Bang that most of us are familiar with today, there existed in the imaginations of old philosophers a universal origin akin to a vast, terrifying ocean. Within a fantasy world like Elden Ring, we have the benefit of the creation myth being more literal, considering that the effects of the primordial crucible can be clearly seen within those it has left its touch. What the game also carries over from these stories is Chaos Kampf, where in this case, the forces of order achieved victory over chaos long ago. From the conquests of Marika and Godfrey, the Golden Order carved out a world of their own to inhabit, one where the Erd Tree's light touches all, and the remnants of the world before are either sealed away or have long been trampled over. For the wellspring of life to achieve its zenith of joy, many must die to make room. The idea of a force fashioning and maintaining a new world for order, some may say a new world order, amidst an encompassing chaos is called the demiurge, which comes from the Platonic school of philosophy as first postulated by the namesake, Plato himself. In his dialogue with Timaeus, Plato discusses the idea of an intelligent designer, no, not that one, carving out the universe in the light of sensible ideas, taking and reforming chaos in accordance with models of eternal forms, epitomes of the Platonic ideal. Plato attests that this demiurge is a benevolent figure, but ponders whether the universe came from the eternal form or from one that has already existed. Was it after that which is self-identical and uniform, or after that which has come into existence? Now, if so be that this cosmos is beautiful and its constructor good, it is plain that he fixed his gaze on the eternal. But if otherwise, which is an impious supposition, his gaze was on that which has come into existence. But it is clear to everyone that his gaze was on the eternal. For the cosmos is the fairest of all that has come into existence, and he the best of all the causes. So having in this wise come into existence, it has been constructed after the pattern of that which is apprehensible by reason and thought and is self-identical. Just as the Platonic architect of the universe reshapes chaos into an eternal form, Godfrey and Marika reshaped the lands before into the lands between, a world where their demigod children can rule and the Erd Tree be the light that guides. As it would turn out, though, a couple of their children would never earn their right to rulership until the shattering of their parents' order, for they were touched by that chaotic crucible so reviled. And when the shattering arrived, both brothers would emerge to mark indelibly different paths in their lives. As one hated his curse and himself for his love of the ideals of the Erd Tree's order, the other fully embraced his, and so did he too fall in love, but within the defiling cradle of an outer god.
Foul tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Many Tarnish know to quiver at the utterance of the name Morgott, the Fell Omen. A ruthless hunter of those pursuing the title of Elden Lord, Morgott's infamy extends far back to the days of the Shattering, where he served in the defense of the royal capital against the other forces of the demigods. He bested the mighty Star-Scourge Radahn in combat, and sent Godric the Golden running all the way to Limgrave and towards his own path of damnation. Since then, with the ruthless efficiency of his Knights Cavalry and his own demigod power, he has kept countless Tarnished at bay. But fewer will know of his true identity, Morgott, the grace-given Lord of Leyndell, the Omen King.
Graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones? Ah, Godric the Golden. The twin prodigies, Mikola and Malenia. General Radahn. traitor Rykard. Lunar Princess Rani. Willful traitors, all. Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Have it writ upon thy meager grave. Felled by King Morgott, last of all kings.
Morgott, alongside his brother, grew up a cursed child in the Shunning Grounds, for not even the son of Godfrey and Marika could escape the fate of noble Omen. So close to the light of the Erdtree, and yet kept so far from the society that hated him. And Morgott hated himself for what he was born into, to be denied grace for the way he was born, for something he did not choose. But did he love? Oh yes, yes he did. For he loved the Erdtree dearly so, a love that led him to recanting his curse, to defy his dismal fate, and become the grace-given lord he was meant to be. Within Morgott grew a fervent devotion to the Golden Order, and with his demigod power would defy the fate of the typical noble Omen. When the Shattering came, it was his chance for forgiveness in the gaze of the Erdtree, to protect it at all costs from the deviant agendas of his siblings. Morgott's upbringing also festered in intense self-loathing. He believes his very existence as an Omen is a flaw within the perfect model of the Golden Order, especially being born to Queen Marika herself. To him, it is all the more important to not only conduct himself as the veiled monarch of the Erdtree capital, not only to protect the Holy Tree itself, but to rise above his cursed fate and become its greatest champion. Indeed, when the Tarnished meets Morgott in his true form at the base of the Erdtree, his cane, which bludgeoned countless warriors back at the gates of Stormvale as Morgott, erupts into a wicked, multicolored blade. The cursed blood he recanted is that which was contained within, to be repurposed as a weapon of defense instead of defilement. Morgott's resentment of his curse also results in a more human appearance to the Omen King, at least in comparison to the other Omen, and especially to his brother. He still has the signature horns, and has also grown a tail, but that is more telling of his endurance in proving to himself to the Erdtree. And when he is dealt a fatal blow, he unwittingly spills out the essence of his curse. Morgott is never angrier than to see the beauty of the Elden Throne tainted.
The thrones, stained by my curse, such shame I cannot bear. Thy part in this shall not be forgiven.
And if he successfully fends off such a hated, tarnished warrior,
may the curse seep to thy very soul.
It is only after falling at the hands of a tarnished champion that his Omen curse is seemingly expunged, his horns excised. And by the hand of his father, Godfrey, while the Erdtree is burning, Morgott finally finds forgiveness. Morgott, in many ways, is very similar to his hated tarnished foe, persistent in his quest, not just to fend off any would-be pillagers, but to also find meaning in the struggle of life in the lands between. And for that, Morgott deserves to be saved.
It's been a long while, Morgott.
Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
Morgott lived and died with the Erdtree in mind, loving and defending it despite it never repaying in kind until the very end. For his twin brother Mohg, however, He did not hold any love for the Erd Tree, nor stood to uphold the ideals of the order that oppressed him. Instead, he found love for the wretched mire into which he was born. He did not follow in his brother's footsteps in rising above and defying fate, but chose to delve deeper down into the depths of his own defilement. One day, deep underground, the young Mohg met a god from beyond, the Formless Mother, also known as the Mother of Truth, who confers her blessings to those of accursed blood, the one that Mohg carries within. The Mother would bestow upon Mohg not with holy grace, but with fire, and from that day he became besotted with the befoulment he was raised within, and became her champion, for the Mother desires wounds. From that moment, Mohg became the Lord of Blood, luminary of the Formless Mother, and founder of the dynasty of Mohgwyn. If this sounds familiar, it's because it should be, as Mohg is appropriating the suffix of wyn from his brother, Godwyn, which, as we discussed in the last episode, means peace in Old English. So, following the same conventions, Mohgwyn implies a peace centered on Mohg himself. Mohg peace, or perhaps peace of Mohg. With his gifts, Mohg would build his base of power in the mausoleum of a civilization long dead, the furthest away he could possibly escape the Erd Tree's light. And when the Tarnished arrives at his palace, whether through a waygate or perhaps through service to White Mask Vare, one of Mohg's emissaries, they can see a vision of what a Mohgwyn dynasty reigning supreme might look like. Swamps clotted with rivers of blood, its denizens mutated into scabbed, blistered forms, corralled by the will of sanguine nobles, and no one to clean up all the crap lying across every inch of the swamp. All the effect of Mohg gleefully sharing his own accursed blood among his flock, the effect of unrestrained love for the corruption he woos within. For the Mohgwyn dynasty is built upon love, in direct contrast to the hatred Mohg received in his upbringing in the royal capital. As the motto states it, bless the Mohgwyn dynasty with love.
Bless the Mohgwyn dynasty with love. Bless the Mohgwyn dynasty with love.
But even with his power, however, Mohg desired more. He desired godhood. But it wouldn't be until the Shattering that Mohg found that means to godhood that he sought. Instead of becoming one himself, he would instead pursue the next best thing, becoming their consort, a perverse, blood-soaked reflection of Elden Lord, but one for an order of corruption. That god would be his half-brother, Mikola, the son of Marika and Radagon, and sister to Melania. An Empyrean, Mikola is a candidate for godhood, for Marika is Radagon, and Radagon is Marika, and this self-union cursed Mikola with eternal youth. And so one day, during the Shattering, Mohg managed to sneak into Mikola's Halig tree to steal away the young Empyrean, who was still slumbering within the bark. While their union and Mohg's sharing of his bloody, cocoony bedchamber is indeed one to raise an eyebrow at, I see it as akin to a celestial marriage like that of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Not necessarily sexual, considering that Mohg would be in liquid form if his cutscene is anything to go by, but his attempts to become consort to a corrupted Mikola is meant to increase their exaltation in the eyes of the Formless Mother, which is what Mohg is trying to accomplish with the comatose Mikola, who does not respond to the Lord of Blood. And what Mohg's efforts reflect is similar to his brother's, the product of the hatred him and his omen-born compadres led him down the path. This one not of penitent forgiveness, but of blood-soaked opposition. To embrace, nay, love, the cursed hand that Mohg was dealt in life, to take all those wretched-born outcasts under his blackened wings, which ends up culminating in the building of a dynasty of his own name, one that the tarnished warriors can find deep underground and put a stop to. For what better fashion to end this dynasty than to spill its blood? The world is one crafted by the will of Queen Marika, for she is its demiurge. Order is the way of things, primum agendi. Chaos, or at least those that represent that which the Order abhors, has long been conquered by the time the Tarnished reached the shores of the lands between. We still see the effects of this systemic subjugation of those Crucible touched, from the outcast knights of Lord Godfrey to the suffering of the Omen, from the common hornless ones to those of noble born who keep theirs, and their connection to the curse itself. Where Morgott seeks forgiveness for his cursed existence and stands as its last defender, Mohg embraces his and sets about to create his own order of wretchedness. Morgott, the Omen King, and Mohg, the Lord of Blood, are twin monarchs, one of hatred and one of love. The sins of the Golden Order and its blind pursuit of perfection at the cost of those it sees as impure. That which it hates both leads the lumbering corpse that remains of the Order and creates a new one that would depose it if given chance. As in Marika's own words,
I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order. Through understanding of the proper way, our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?